Hi everyone, we are live from Gallifrey.
Okay, good. All right. So was yours at work? Mine didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you're the doctor. I'm just. Okay. All right. I get it.
We don't need it now.
Jeez.
We are live from Gallifrey. Everything is working well. And I am Elle Tea. And
that's right.
This is
Elle Tea, aka the doctor.
Yes, and my companion.
Yes, there you go. I'm Daniel. So we are here to cover Doctor Who, most recent episode.
Yes.
Actually just aired. I love it. I forgot what the title was.
The Monument, Ghost Monument?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is what the Tardis was.
And if you have not seen this episode yet, we do highly recommend that you watch it because we will be talking massive spoilers. And if you know River Song, you know what we're talking about. No spoilers.
Oh, man. No spoilers. Well, it's all spoilers.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be giving you all the spoilers. Spoilers, sweetie?
Yes.
Oh, man. This episode was so good on so many levels.
I'm
sorry.
love this
Every
doctor,
bit of it was good.
And I feel like I need to reevaluate my list of favorite doctors because Jodie Whittaker, in just these 2 episodes, I am blown away not only by her performance and the companions, but we were talking about the quality and the cinematography and everything about these episodes are just amazing.
Yes, I loved it. Every bit of it was just like, okay, this is no longer the Doctor that you're used to. It's a cinematic adventure is what you're going into. You're jumping into something that has become so large, so huge, and you see it in every way. The budget has to be ridiculous. I don't know how this happened because they were always worried about we're losing viewership with Capaldi, etc., etc. But yet they were able to kill it when it came to actually how this show looks. The visuals are amazing.
And just the title sequence coming in, I thought that was absolutely gorgeous. If we have Edward Sanchez in the chat, if you happen to watch this episode,
Oh yeah,
what do you guys think about
let us know. Let us know immediately what you guys thought about the episode. Start chiming in as we're going along because we want this to be a free-flowing discussion. This is where we're going to be able to talk about the show where you can't talk about it with anyone else. Do it right here. So that's what we're here for.
And as we mentioned last week, even if you are not a Doctor Who fan, it is not too late to become one. This season is a brand new Doctor, brand new companions, new show writer, new everything. This is the perfect time to jump in.
Yeah.
If you have no connection to Doctor Who, it does not matter.
This is the time to jump in if you're not a fan because, like she said, everything's new.
And you will be. Jodie Whittaker is so charismatic. I absolutely adore her. So
everything about her is great. Everything about her is great. This is the universe's sweetheart, as I call her now.
Yeah.
So we get the Doctor immediately being connected with. She goes with Yaz, right?
Yeah, it starts media unrest. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how they got to where they are in this episode based off of the last one. But yeah, the Doctor is with Yaz, and then we have Graham and Ryan with. Oh my goodness, I already forget her name.
Well, there's Yaz, Graham, and Ryan, which we did get, but then the other...
They're separated.
Exactly.
And with our new characters...
which I love this Who's That feature on this show. I love the Who's That feature where it's like, here it is, tell you exactly what it is. Armstrong,
Angstrom and Epso. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
They're not common names, and as you guys know, if you watch Power Rangers, I am not good at pronunciations or remembering things, so please forgive me.
But you did very well here. You did very well here. That's why you're the Doctor. I'm telling you, that's why you're the Doctor right now. You've got it. So they're paired off in 2 different ways, and with those 2, and immediately we're starting to see that the Doctor and Yaz are making sure that they can survive.
Yeah,
that is what they are doing. The ship is going down. The ship is crashing, and it looks so good. I can't stress it enough how great it looks at that one moment where she says, okay, we're going to have to blow the back out. And you were like, what? And then they shut those doors, and the camera pulls in so we can get through the people and see it too. And then, boom, you see it blow off. The camera pulls back, pulls off, and then we get a full shot of them again, and we know that half of that ship has now been jettisoned. And you're just like, it all happened in one shot, flowing quickly. God, this director is amazing. Every way of it, it's good.
It is really good. And I do like that they opened on the companions again, or if you are new and you don't have this association with the Doctor, you can kind of project yourself onto the companions, which it starts off with, and we get into the Doctor. And we kind of find out with these new 2 characters that are being introduced that they land on this planet, and they're actually in this race of some sort. Yeah. Which is the driving plot point to this whole episode.
It's like an Amazing Race almost, pretty much. They have to get to this one location. It has to be one of them that gets to it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, once they get there, well, then they win, and them and their clan wins like trillions of dollars.
It's basically to save their families, though. And that's what I like about Doctor Who, is that it's always kind of has people that you don't necessarily like. When you find out what their motivation is, it's always something very humanistic that makes you relate to them.
Exactly, which that makes it great because, like you said, it does help us relate to them. But, pardon me, you figure out exactly who. The quicker way to say it is you figure out exactly who you're going to hate.
Yeah.
In the episode.
And it shifts the point of view enough where we learn that they are actually fighting and racing to protect their families, to get some kind of sanctions for themselves and their families to be safe.
Yeah.
Which, if you watched last week's episode, the first episode of the season, that Tim Shaw's, is race the wrong word? But Tim Shaw's.
I guess you could say because they're all aliens from that planet. So Tim Shaw, the race, whatever Tim Shaw's race is, which he's a Stenza warrior. So we understand that they have a connection once again with this episode.
Yeah, and our producer actually made a really interesting comment that there are no multiple parters in this entire season, but they are starting to tie in these little story arcs, which I think is really well done.
It's breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And we'll go into breadcrumbs even further when we get close to the end of breaking down this episode.
Yeah.
But just little breadcrumbs connecting things, and I'm trying to figure out, why are you doing this to us? Why? But from there, go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, so they, I don't even remember the guy's name, but he's there,
tells
them what this is for, and it's like, hey, you need to go make it
Illan?
Illan.
Oh, he be Illan.
And he's also a hologram.
Yes.
And he is sending them on their next part of the adventure. We think that Angstrom and Ipso, that they are bringing in these like kind of bounties, but the guy's like, you know what, deal's off. You guys need to make it to the Ghost Monument before the planet does its full rotation. Yeah. And we still don't really get what's going on, so we're kind of figuring it out as the Doctor and the companions are. And so they're on the way, and finally, we find out that the Ghost Monument is actually the Tardis, as what we've been looking for.
And the reason they're calling it the Ghost Monument is because it's phasing in and out of time and dimension.
It's in flux and can't quite materialize.
So the thing is, you'll hear it, vroom, 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 boom, it's there for a second, vroom, 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 it's gone. Then vroom, 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 then vroom, and so that's why it's the Ghost Monument. It makes sense. It's like a ghost.
And this is what they're racing to, and whoever gets here first, ultimately gets to protect their family and gets enough money to save the people that they care about.
Right.
So this is a great motivating factor. They're going to run to this, but also he gives them a warning of like, don't go out at night.
Oh yeah, there's and do not drink the water.
Yes. So we find out that the atmosphere is poison, that the water is poison, and
so
everything on this planet is poisonous.
It's pretty much just like Australia. It's like Australian jungles. Like, it will kill you.
What is it with you and hating on Australia?
I'm not hating on Australia. I'm saying how cool. Okay, you know what? I love Australians because the thing is, they are the strongest people in the world. If you can live in a place where pretty much is made to kill you, and yet you survive it, there's a reason why
that's a good point.
Good Australians are like, oh, Australians are amazing actors, they're amazing athletes, and blah, blah, blah. Because they live in a constant flux of survival.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, Australians.
And we have...
Clean that one up.
I'm going to mess up your name, but Magma Campert?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Magma Campert.
All right, and opinions on new Doctor casting. Like, we kind of talked about it briefly last week, but I absolutely love the casting of this. Like, I think the companions are good. We get the old curmudgeon, but kind of finding a new spark in life. And
with Graham, I love that exactly. That's exactly it. And he's trying to make sure he holds on to what, what's her name told him? Grace, which is live.
Yeah, and don't be afraid.
Exactly.
And,
so he's learning to accept things, and he's like, when Ryan tells him, "Oh my God, we're on another planet," and he goes, "Yeah, it's kind of given, like, right? You see three suns, pretty much there." You know, like, whatever.
Yeah, and
I can't do a good
Jason
Statham.
And kind of snarky, and I like him.
Yeah,
and
he's my new Jason Statham also.
Yes,
his voice is right there, so I love it. I love everything about him.
So, Magma, I was wondering, like, what do you guys think of the casting? Like, we kind of talked about it a lot. We generally like them. We love the series so far, but if any of you aren't a fan of anyone, I'd be interested to hear, because I think I'm so blindsided by my love for this show that I may not be able to see the cracks that you guys do.
And that's possible, because right now the thing is, I am in love with the fact that it's like, okay, all the characters represent the Doctor. I said this last time, and how each one of them has a piece of the Doctor's characteristic, the Doctor's makeup, his ideals, or her ideals. And each one of them represents a piece of it. When you put them all together, you get the Doctor. So that's why the Doctor was like, these are my best friends. And this is like, it matches so well. They flow together.
And I like that the Doctor has this immediate bond where it's like, these are my best friends. They don't complain. And she's always praising. She's never breaking anybody down, which I kind of felt like Capaldi and some of them were... They would kind of insinuate that they don't know what's going on, that they... maybe don't come up to par.
They would take a jab because the person didn't understand it as quick as he did.
And this Doctor is embracing everyone that she comes into, which I really love. And
yes. And definitely we know for sure there are moments where she gives the speech. And like I said, oh my God, she gave like the war speech with much less words and still got the whole point across in a few seconds.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, Capaldi, I fell in love with him when he did the war speech. Mm-hmm. I just fell in love with her, and she did the war speech in less words, which is funny because they say men use less words than women.
But she is incredibly succinct. And
yes!
Yeah,
I love that.
I do too.
Oh my gosh, it's
and then
so
people in chat are also saying that they love the TARDIS as being the Ghost Monument, which I also love.
Oh, come on, it was great.
FOR Junior?
FOR Junior?
FOR Junior?
We're going to say FOR Junior.
All right. Until you correct us, that is what we will refer to your handle name as.
That's right. I'm sorry. It's kind of hard. There's so many people. It's like different alien races.
But yeah, I do love that the TARDIS is the Ghost Monument as well on this planet called Desolation, which is super interesting, and it gives this very haunting atmosphere where no one else is on this planet. The only other person was a hologram. We have our 2 new characters in the show and our 3 companions of the Doctor, and that's it.
That's it.
So
that's it.
Yeah, and we have, is it Sinbad? How do you say the writer's name?
Chibnall.
So the writing of the last episode, this episode, and actually the next episode are all written by this guy who does, was it like kind of like crime mystery?
Well, Broadchurch is a kind of procedural. It's a procedural show. David Tennant was on it.
Oh, and also Jodie
and she
Whittaker
was exactly. Right? So the thing is, there's so many things that you see kind of the way he progresses with the story that he's done in procedural. For example, what was the portion that we said every moment where we asked a question and we pointed out a plot hole,
they immediately answered.
Like we'd look and we'd see it for a second, we'd look, and then we're like, hey, what about it? And there goes the answer.
Like, I had the question about Ryan, who they make it a point in the first episode of him trying to ride the bicycle that he has some kind of coordination issue, that he is not as coordinated and can't function as well as others. I'm like, how is he running around doing these space adventures? And then we see him struggling to come down the ladder. And I'm like, oh, we're seeing it again. And Daniel had mentioned about, hey, how can they understand these other aliens? This shouldn't be possible. And immediately explain it with the implant on the back of their neck.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my God. And she said, if we had our TARDIS, I wouldn't have to do that. And I was like, exactly. It is a function of the TARDIS. So I love that she was bringing it up and answering the question along with us with every bit. And then also a part that when you think about it, we did have the question and he immediately addressed it. The moment where we find out that there are robots there.
Yeah.
And with the robots there, there's a moment where they start shooting at everyone. And when they're shooting at everyone, Ryan says, I've got this.
He's played a lot of video games, apparently.
Hold my beer, Call of Duty is my thing. And he goes ahead and grabs the gun, figures out what the trigger is, and starts coming out, just pop, headshot. He's going down, taking them all. And then I said the thing of, now, using an alien device, how do you figure out how to and he stops and immediately he runs into it. Yeah. Reload. How do I reload? And it was like, there you go. The same question we were asking is the same question that they knew. It's like they planned it so well. They wrote it in a way where it was like, I know that you are going to ask this question, and I want you to ask it at this moment, and that's when I'll address it.
But there is something that FOR Junior mentions. He was like, that where did the glasses come from? Because she does mention in the first episode that my pockets are
were
empty.
right?
But also, it seems like some time has passed in between that first episode and how they even got into space and
That's what
met
I'm
these
saying.
people,
Yeah, I don't get
and it's
that.
not ever explained. So we are just kind of catching up. We have to assume that adventures have been going on with these companions, and we are just kind of tuning in.
Store
Their story?
where she got her outfit.
Where she got her outfit.
So she picked up glasses there. That makes sense. But also, she says that she got them from someone else, or they were
The way it's phrased is she references getting them, and they remind her of someone. And it was like, oh,
And I thought they were
wait.
going to be a callback to like the Sonic sunglasses that Capaldi
Yeah.
had, but it was no mention. And obviously, they were completely different from
Yeah.
what he wore. Although I would have loved to seen him in those style of sunglasses.
With the print on the, yeah, that would have been good to see. God, he does still look styling. He a little looks like Morrissey.
Yeah,
A little looks
A
like
little
Morrissey
bit.
right there, and
And
I
I
can
feel
see
like
that.
the jaws kind of help that Morrissey
Oh,
image
yes.
too. Definitely has that, the hair and the
The
jaw.
hair and the jawline, like that's it. I love it right off the bat. I would want you to be. See, people are saying it. I'm telling you, we need a letter campaign. I want you to be the next Doctor of Doctor
I
Who
am
next
definitely
season,
not
Al.
smart enough to be the Doctor. Let me tell you now, I would have it. I'd be like, it's not doing the thing. We're all
The
doomed.
thingy.
I'm sorry, guys.
Like, that thingy with the thing and the
Yeah,
thing
like,
and the thingy.
you know,
and they're like,
mostly
what?
saving us. I don't know how to save us. I'm so sorry. And I would never have the backup plan. We would just be doomed, and it would be the shortest season of Doctor Who ever. But moving on to this Doctor Who is completely capable.
Why did I sign up to be the companion for this? What's going on now? You're gonna lead me to death on a show. This is not okay.
Yeah, if you guys think I'm a good doctor, I won't be. But if you have a reason why, go ahead and mention in the chat, because I love to build my self-esteem
Yeah, is that it? Is that it?
through other people.
Honestly, right now, I think that should be a thing. We should have a letter campaign. But until we do get a letter campaign,
Yes.
I think people can either go on the THS hashtaggers and kind of start spreading it around there in the group. Go on the THS hashtaggers, start spreading around, putting Elle as the new Doctor. In fact,
Yes.
if someone can start, because I know somebody's out there to do it, can we get some Photoshop pictures of Elle as the new
And
Doctor?
what kind of outfit would I wear as a doctor, and what kind of sonic screwdriver would I have? I'm assuming it would just be a cat that I'm holding, and that's my Sonic, and I'd be like,
a cat in the
yeah,
Sonic.
and I'd be
Watch
like,
out! Laser cats.
yeah. It would be like that. It'd be
Oh
like,
my
I need to open this big ornate door. Here's my cat.
It's meow. Okay, so, well, then that's abuse to the cat, though. I don't know. It has to know when to do it. You're psychically linked to the cat.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, that
It's
can
true.
work. That can work.
My TARDIS color would probably be pink
I would.
and
oh
gold.
my God.
Pink and gold.
Ooh.
But anyway, we digress. We are no longer talking about the show, so let's return
okay,
to the
back to the
actual show. And I like some of the callbacks. Like, I actually didn't know what they were, but you're saying that the pinky, the
Oh my
to
God,
freeze you.
that's a-
I don't remember that
That's
episode.
a reference to the third
To the
Doctor.
third Doctor.
That is crazy. And the nuns of jeez, I forgot what they were. But he learned a particular move where it was just like, okay.
And they're frozen, and
paralysis.
yeah. And I
Instant
thought that was
paralysis.
Keto.
There you go, Thanushan Aikido.
But I like, even for me, that I have no reference from this, and I just accept it as this is what the Doctor does. Ooh, a Sonic Tea infuser.
Oh my
I like that.
Well,
Wait,
there have been doctors that can save the universe with just a teapot and string.
and this was, Nagami
I
has said that
love it.
this actually wasn't in the Doctor Who episode. It was for the Red Nose Day video
Yes,
that they did
exactly,
with
exactly.
a tea kettle and some string.
Exactly.
And yes, a tea infuser. So this will be a part of my setup. And
Oh
I
my
will brew
God.
tea for my companions at the end of every episode as we unwind from today's adventures.
Okay, see? I can deal with that. Okay, good. I'm
all
on this TARDIS. We're doing well right now.
And actually, speaking of the TARDIS, I'm going to just skip ahead.
yes.
And I know that we are kind of jumping around and this isn't our
yes,
usual
we're
format.
here to talk about the
but
show.
I am so hyped for the new TARDIS look. The
Oh.
coloring seems to be very different. Did you notice it had kind of that green,
Yeah,
blue?
okay. When she gets up to the door, you guys see it right there just as we see it. There's a
That very
there's a
teal kind of-
Yes. there's definitely a teal look to it. It's no longer just full on blue. And she
It's
says,
gorgeous.
"Oh, you snazed up for me." And then she sees how it doesn't say just like the police box thing anymore. Now it's like a new plaque that's been put on.
I know, and I want to
Like,
see like an up close image of what that actually says. I
Yes.
don't think it's necessarily important, but I do love the look of the new TARDIS. I kind of thought she was
Exactly.
going to bring back the snapping to open it when she
No.
mentioned she didn't have the key.
I love the
but
while
she
we were
just,
watching
she
it.
just pushed it open.
While we were watching it, she was like, "Oh, you're right. I don't have a key." And then you went, I just heard you just,
And she's
I
pushed
heard
it
you
open.
snap, and then at the same time it opened. And I was like, it knows you. It's
It
going
does.
to open. Remember, the TARDIS stole you. You didn't steal the TARDIS, Doctor.
And like we were both watching this together with bated breath of like what the interior of this new TARDIS will look like, because every Doctor, if you're not familiar, kind of gets a new
Pretty much.
pretty
It's a
much
thing
like
now.
every single Doctor gets a new interior.
Yep.
And this one is super interesting, and like you mentioned, it looks just like her Sonic with the orange crystalline.
Yes, and then yet it still looks like kind of
Very
biomechanical, kind of
Industrial
metal. Yes.
feel to it.
And it looks just like the sonic screwdriver. So I don't know. I know according to set design, that's the answer. But the thing is, it's like still. Hopefully, Chibnall is like, well, I'm a fan enough to know that I have to make the connection, and I don't know if it's just because there's a psychic connection between the TARDIS and the Doctor. So when the Doctor did this, the TARDIS was like, "Oh, that'd be cute if I actually did everything else that way too. We'll get it. We're simpatico."
Yeah,
You know?
and I actually really love these warm golden tones, and I feel like we haven't really seen that since
yes.
Matt Smith's
That's very
interior.
true. Very
But it's
true.
also mixed with the bright contrasting of the blue, which
Stark-
reminds us
it's a
it's
stark contrast
yeah.
to the blue.
And I love it.
is.
And it creates both this warm and cool kind of atmosphere, which I feel like in the future they're going to brighten and dim depending on the moods of what is going on in the episode.
Oh my God, that's exactly it. I think that's gonna be it for everything. I love it. Let me see. I need to rewatch season 1 of Doctor Who again. which
Are you
is
talking
very
about
true.
the first Doctor or just season 1 from the reboot with Eccleston? Because that is a good place to start too.
Ooh. Eccleston, if you do look back at Eccleston while watching this season, you'll see a lot of similarities, and you'll say like, "Wow, that's interesting how the Doctor handled something then versus how the Doctor handles something now." Which every iteration of the Doctor is different, even though it's still the same person. There are different choices.
Yes.
There are different ways to get things done, and the Doctor learns from every time, so it just gets better and better.
And his great leather jacket. And also Ryan Infinity Wizard Thomas says, "What is the shirt that you are wearing?"
Okay, this is not really a nerd shirt, and it's kind of political. I never usually like to get into political stuff on, hashtag. No reason to. But yes, he's a racist. It's a shirt line by W. Kamau Bell, and it's speaking about. He's talking about. Oh, well, I can actually say it because they did say it in Doctor Who last season.
Okay.
The Cheeto, the presidential Cheeto.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
he's talking about.
Then we
so
can
I
talk
can
about
I can talk about it because they did. I forgot where it's like, well, he's orange. Yeah, so I'm talking about the orange one when it says the shirt that says yes, he's a racist. So that's all. Don't worry about it.
And if you are interested in other types of shirts that's more like geared to geek pop culture,
That's
we
right.
have our store.
T Public, which is a great shop where you can get all your cool shirts. And the link is in the description below. But you can get shirts such as, well, the Teabaggers. You can be part of that team, part of the crew.
He's out.
Pinkies out because they're classy.
Yes.
That's right. Or you can also sign up and be part of the Galactica squad with me with the Battlestar Galactica shirt. Another one is coming out very soon, but I want to see these move. But yeah, I have another logo coming out.
Yeah, but also the hashtag show.
Oh man,
The shirt,
the
if you
classic
want-
hashtag shirt.
Yes, which I absolutely love.
I told
And
you, it's-
if you ever get a chance, check out our website at thathashtagshow.com. Go onto Facebook, join any of our groups,
Oh,
comment,
heck yeah.
connect with us there.
Connect with us in so many
I'm
ways.
trying to
Like,
be a Facebooker. It's really hard for me, but
hey, it still works. It
Yeah.
still works. The internet is something that it's at your fingertips. I can go ahead and check out anything. So
hard.
with THS hashtaggers, you get to make sure that you get the conversation, discussion going even after the shows. You're able to say, hey, one thing I noticed that they didn't notice in on the Doctor Who Live from Gallifrey, they didn't notice this, or they didn't say say this. Well, then start talking about it there.
Yeah,
Make
and
it a thread.
we'll try to bring it up on the next
Exactly.
episode, and we'll try to like backtrack a little bit and see what
Exactly.
other conversations we can
and
have.
the great thing is everyone is there. Everyone that you see on that hashtag show is right there on THS Hashtaggers. But we're also on our website, thathashtagshow.com. And that's where you can find articles concerning any and everything to deal with geek pop culture. You like Doctor Who? Trust me, there's an article on it.
Power Rangers, Marvel, comic books, everything.
Anything and everything. It's a free-for-all. There are articles all over, and you'll be able to find them. And they're done and contributed by some of the people that even watch the show. And that's the great thing about it. We work to make sure that we are a huge community and we connect with you. So connect with us. Head over to thathashtagshow.com. Now back to the show.
Yeah. Also, let me just throw this in there if you want to connect with us, because the chat does move fast sometimes. And if you want to give us a super chat, we'll go ahead and read that on air. Make sure sure that it stays at the top of the screen in some bright blues, so we're able to read it and see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of forgot what we were talking about. We were so involved with the TARDIS.
We were talking about the TARDIS,
the
but
interior.
going back into some other points that were interesting. We do have to remember what happened to Ebzo. Now, we figured out that these kind of
paper-like tentacle eels that float.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in this episode, we don't really like Epso. He is a very gruff, self-centered person that doesn't want to be a team player. We don't have a lot of empathy for him.
Nope.
And in the scene that he is competing with Angstorm and to protect their family, and she steps up and saves him. Which I thought was super interesting.
Well, I think it's good because it shows her character. As a person, she is someone that's like, hey, I don't want to see anyone else hurt if they don't need to be. And, also, I think she was kind of thinking that the rule did say you can't, like no one can be hurt and no blah, 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 yada, yada.
And maybe was like, hey, if I let him...
That may count against me.
I didn't think that at all from her. I thought that in that moment where they had to band together, because this is after they had fought the robots and... the doctor says we are better together than we are alone, and that is a major theme of this show, that we need to band together in times of turmoil and stress and all of this to work together to have a good ending. And I felt like, and she was just like, without hesitation, saved him, saved his life.
That's right. And that was good, so she cut it off, and then we found out that these exist. And now we knew that once they did exist, they would be coming back.
Yes.
You immediately know that. If they did not dispatch someone, they need to be dispatched. That's something you always have to remember when it comes to Doctor Who and the monsters. If you see them for the first time and they run away, they need to be dispatched. If not, they're going to dispatch someone. So be ready for it. And sure enough, it happens.
Yes.
They go outside because they realize we can't be here at night. We have to go up top.
And that was the whole purpose of the warning.
Exactly.
So, they run out. They're doing all this stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then immediately they get surrounded by... what I say is the scene from almost Harry Potter, the Dementors.
Yeah, I had that same feeling where they're swirling around and
And then she was smart. She was like, "Don't listen to them. The words are there to distract you."
Yes.
But it reminded me so much of Voldemort, just roaming around. And
yes.
He's like, "Harry Potter, you are tired."
Is that what he says? You are tired.
Yeah, he does. He's like, you cannot win. Blah blah blah, and it's all that good stuff.
I kind of do like that analogy, because that is between the good and evil, because we see Tim Shaw and how they are taking over planets and mass genocide to the inhabitants that are there, and it creates this really heavy feeling. So I actually do like how you were able to connect that.
I love it, but then also with it, that's the interesting thing about it. When they put it together, they were figuring out about these things, and while they were on their hike up there, they saw notes from the scientist. Yeah. The scientist that kept saying notes, and it said something about how lighter than air, smells like garlic. No, that's not it. That's what the scientists that had those messages.
No, it was a warning.
Oh, that's
it was a
right.
warning that they wanted to destroy everything before the Senza came, and they were forced to work here. They had their families, and they were held against their will to create this technology, to do all of this stuff. And we find this was the connection to the first episode, where it's like the Senza warrior, Tim Shaw, that we saw in the first one.
That's right.
And she's reading this, and the last two words. Well, what was it, like? Get out, or something they're coming. Get out.
Get out, right?
Yeah, and that's what triggered them to be like, we cannot be here. Yeah. We need to move. These things are going to come to get us.
Yeah.
And so they flee. And like how you said. And early in the episode, when when Epso mentioned that he had a cigar that he was saving for the win, and like when it could just snap.
He said with a flick. with the flick of the finger, it's self-lighting.
And you
Once
knew
he said
this was going to come
I
back.
told you, I was
and
like,
it
breadcrumb,
definitely
breadcrumb, and immediately that's what happens. So the ribbons start circling, and they're getting around, and you're like, okay, well, this is it. And then she starts saying, we have to dig deep. And she starts giving a speech to burn time, and
just to
essentially
get lower,
that
so
is
they
what-
can get low enough to the
exactly.
ground to make sure that they're not part of the explosion. Which
That was
it's
so
brilliant.
smart. That was so smart. And then when they all start to get it, and she has every one of them do something, they worked so in tandem with each other. Like, you automatically saw, and it felt organic.
Yes.
But once again, it's me pointing out the fact that, once again, each companion is essentially a part of the Doctor. So much so that she was like, okay, when she said the digging in part, she needed Yaz to kind of understand and agree. Yaz did and made everyone else get it. And then after that, she said something else, and then Ryan picked it up.
Yes.
Ryan picked up on something. And then after that, no, she said, well, the gas, lighter than air, garlic? And, well, you know, lighter than air, smells like garlic? He's like, yeah! So he's already figuring out. And then she said, and then she goes to Graham, and then she says, and what do we do when it's like in a moment of victory?
After dinner.
Oh, after dinner.
Yeah.
It's something like that. And it's about, like, you know, you light it for a flick. It would be great. And so then she said, no, you, but what will someone else do? He immediately figures out to reach for the cigar. Like, they worked so well. And then threw it up in our glorious moment with
And
just
that's
a flick.
and that's the thing too. Like, they are all able to work together, and that's what the show is about. Where you finally
yeah.
even see Epso, who wanted to be the lone wolf, coming into it. And oh yeah, so for Junior says they're called ribbons. We make up all kinds of names. We're never gonna call them the same thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, it goes pretty
They're
quick.
Dementors.
But-
They're like Voldemort. They're also tentacles. They're eels. And
But
we are
neither-
not always the most correct on this show, so
But,
feel
yeah,
free
exactly.
to correct us every single time we mess up. That is
It's
what
fine.
the internet is made for, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, right? Correct me. That's what the internet's made for. But, you know, they are ribbons. My thing is, yeah, we did give them a name, but I doubt we'll ever see ribbons again.
We might not, but also, like, if they're bringing Tim Shaw into this and they're bringing that kind of race or that, you know,
That is a
it
little
might be
bit.
the major arc of this story.
Yeah,
And
even though they said there's not supposed to be one, there may just be one hidden, and they just didn't want to let us know. You know, first rule. What's first rule about Doctor?
yeah,
First rule about Doctor is
the Doctor lies.
There you go. So now with
I don't know if
now
that's the
with
first
Chibnall,
rule, but I'm pretty sure it
well,
is.
yeah, now with Chibnall being the showrunner, he's essentially the Doctor, and Chibnall said, "Oh, well, there's no arc. You could be lying to me, Chibnall."
Actually, that's true.
Could be.
That would be a fun twist.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what what's his name did.
Moffat?
Moffat would do it all the time, and you're like, "Oh, you evil man!"
I'm also curious, for those of you that are Doctor Who fans, what are your opinions on Moffat and his writing? But also, okay, so on the screen we have our crystal TARDIS, which for Junior, for JR, I like mentioned. And this is something that we actually rewound a couple times to
Yes.
see it spinning. And I want to know, like, because they actually do have the toy that spins on the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So
right.
I'm pretty sure that is going to be in our hot topic pretty soon. I'm
Well,
super
Oh,
excited.
definitely. But I think what I want is one that's like, it's crystal, but they probably have one where it's like it spins underwater and it starts off like crystal, and then when you put it in warm water, it turns blue. So you can see it actually show
Also,
up.
I've seen this before, but they have the TARDIS cookie jars. But now if they can have one that spits out biscuits, man, that would be a big seller where it has a little ramp and the
That was
biscuits
so
come out like a
great. That
Pez
was so
machine, but in
good.
a TARDIS cookie jar.
But it's funny because what the TARDIS is doing almost in a way, because the TARDIS also always takes care of the Doctor.
It's
and
true.
the TARDIS does look at the Doctor kind of like, remember I kidnapped you, you're the young one, I'm much older than you, and I kind of lead you around. You go where I want you to go, not where you want to go. But all these things that go along with it, it kind of feels like to me where it's like, it's a monkey in a shop and they're like, press a button for a cookie, and the monkey, bing, oh! Like, you know, just like that, where it's almost where the TARDIS is kind of mocking, but still like, no, but I'm taking care of you at the same time. So it's like, press a button, get a cookie, and I'll pat you on the head.
And I like that because it does show, especially how happy she is about this, that
Musical.
this is her TARDIS. This is definitely something that is completely different from everyone else, from like the design of it, interior, exterior, and how it does take care of her, what the controls look like. And
I love it.
I love it. I love
I
it.
love how it immediately, because it is a Doctor and they have that connection, the psychic connection, I keep saying it, the Doctor immediately knows how to be able to pilot it. And immediately, just right off the bat, Ryan's like, oh, can I touch it? She's like, no.
No. I felt like that was like a quick little hand slap where it's like, you don't ask that again.
Oh my God. Well, question. I love this.
What is this?
Right off the bat. Well, Elle, did you like the first Doctor from season 1, the girl named Rose?
I like the Doctor. I was okay with Rose at that point. I don't like Rose. I absolutely don't like Rose.
Wow.
And that's why I didn't really like Tennant, because Tennant gave in to her. And I know I talked about this before, but he was very much like, Eccleston was very much, you don't follow my rules, you're going to get left behind. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. But Tennant's like, no, my Rose, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't like that. But some of my favorite companions are with Tennant, and Tennant grew on me, and I absolutely love him. It took me a while to warm up to him, but he is one of my favorite Doctors.
My thing when it comes to Rose was kind of the same, where at one time we were like, well, the Doctor is almost like an angel, not given to sex, not going into it, so shouldn't be sexualized in any way. And the thing is, the Doctor is usually asexual. Here comes Rose.
Not really. I mean, he has a lot of wives.
Very true. But it was like, Rose, that whole thing, bringing it back again, where it was like, there's an interest, but I can't admit to it. But there's an interest, but I can't admit to it. And then the coolest curb in history, where there's a moment where he's like, Rose, and remember, I always, boom, and he goes away. And it was like, what happened? It's the smoothest way for a guy never have to say the words, I love you. And he just did it. And I was just like, wow. Bravo, Doctor. And actually, now, that's an example no one should follow, but bravo.
Pullman also says that Paul McGann wasn't really asexual. And also,
Paul McGann was not asexual. You're very right. He was not at all.
No.
And he's my doctor. He was not asexual at all. He immediately loved that nurse, and he was ready to go for,
She was a
she was a doctor. She was a surgeon. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Who's messing up with this doctor thing?
Fix it. Stop it. Rewind. Erase. All right. So yeah, he was in love with that doctor. Like immediately. So that was that really worked. See, it's like it never happened.
It never happened. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, but it exists because we are live from Gallifrey, and you guys all witness that, so please bring that up every time you can in the chat.
Please don't. Oh, come on, guys.
Everywhere. If you want to go onto Facebook and that hashtag, feel free to comment there. Any of our articles that we post on that hashtag show, feel free to comment there so I can wipe out my own shame from the Power Ranger show.
Well, she is a doctor, and that's something that someone doesn't believe in. Too many people are. I don't know. Oh my God.
We are digressing. This is such a far departure from how we normally do things.
Yes.
So if you want to get us on topic or any of the topics that you have to suggest, please let us know so we can go ahead and talk about them.
Exactly. But so with this episode, I gotta ask for you, what was your favorite moment? What was the one that was just like, this is something I'm going to talk about later. I'm going to tell people blah blah. Just what was a moment?
Obviously, the TARDIS is a big thing, and we talked a lot about that. But also the one thing that once I go home from this episode, and this is completely superficial, I'm going to look up to see if that abandoned area where they were, kind of near the beach, or in the sands, I want to know where that is and if it's a real location, because I love visiting Doctor Who locations.
That's right. Where have you been so far?
Truth and Consequences, the city in New Mexico, also Lake Silencio.
Oh,
I didn't actually go to Truth and Consequences, just kind of drove by it. But went to Lake Silencio in that episode, and that was super cool. Can't remember if that was in Utah or Arizona, but it might be. We kind of did a road trip. But I want to see if that location is real and if it's somewhere that I could visit eventually. If any of you guys know it's real, let me know.
We're going to have to take a trip, and we're going to have to do a live episode from somewhere.
Yes, and I also love abandoned places. It's a weird thing, but,
Oh, my God. I follow abandoned places on Instagram.
Man.
So many places. You'll find actually on Doctor Who that are on that
interesting.
Places. So I was like, yes.
So what about you? What's something that really stood out for you for this episode? Because I feel like we've touched a lot of bases on this one.
For me, honestly, it was the interaction, or at least the ribbons. The ribbons was my scene, and it was just it was great for me because I just, again, as I said, you heard me lament over it and just go on and on about it, how they were working so well together, and it was organic, the whole connection between everyone, where it was just, okay, I'm going to say this one thing, you get this, you get this, you get this, we all agree and understand together, and because of that, we'll be able to survive. It was great. It was great. It literally is what Dr. Who was.
And they were horrifying, considering they just look like rags. The suffocation. Oh, it's in South Africa. That is somewhere I've never been. I've actually never been there. I wanted to study abroad in Ghana. That's the closest to Africa that I've been. I didn't actually go, but I applied.
Wow.
But,
So they're all the way in South Africa just for this scene.
and
Just
that's insane to me that they film on location for these things. And
Yeah.
I think that is so great, which adds so much depth and quality to the show compared to, just being in London where the earlier episodes were. And we were talking about, like, if you watch, Eccleston, that first episode with the mannequins, and it's kind of hokey and cheesy and low budget. And when you watch that to this, like, it is such a huge
it's always a
difference.
big
Even
thing.
though the themes and the characters and everything that they stand for are the same, you could just tell, like, the quality has increased.
Now, is it a trope that it always happens that first episode is on Earth, second episode is off world?
That's
For
actually,
every
because the
Doctor,
Ponds
for
are
every-
definitely like that.
Since 2005.
Yeah.
Since 2005. First Doctor on Earth. First he's on Earth, and then after that...
Well, actually, Capaldi was on some alien planet, wasn't? Or no, that was just time. It was Earth, but in a different time.
It was a different time.
Oh, yeah,
and
you're
then
right.
Then after that second episode, it's off world.
Interesting.
I
I
didn't
never thought about
realize that,
If
but
you
yeah.
guys know the answer to this question, please let us know.
Yeah, that's interesting. If you guys happen to know, let us know. I
Or
would definitely want to
Wikipedia
know.
it, and then
right?
pretend like you know the information, and then send it to
man.
us. We will give you praise.
Dude, and then, but back to the TARDIS again, because it was beautiful. The moment with the music, everything else, that sprawling shot, and we just get the whole hillside, like you said. And then what was it? You pointed out the flares.
Yeah. The light flares.
the
and
light
everything
flares
else.
and everything like that. And then we finally get to it, and she gets up to it. It was just... At that moment, I cheered. I loved. I stood up. I clapped, and I was just happy about it too. And I felt it, and I'm hoping every other fan felt it too, because we all got giddy when it happened.
And for you in the chat, you guys in the chat, like, what was your favorite part of this episode? Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you want to talk about? Because, like, that's the reason why we do these shows, is we watch it and we want to have these conversations with you guys. Like, it's hard, like, back in the day when there was not a lot of internet, you watch these shows and you're part of a fandom, you don't get to connect. And, if you don't have friends that are into the same thing, you're just like, who do I talk to?
And then sometimes it's even hard to do it when you're just going to go ahead and do it on just a forum and something like that, and you type away and then you wait for someone to say something back. Now, I know that didn't happen on THS hashtaggers. Anytime something's posted, immediately someone's saying something. But that's why we do have this show as well. So this way, when we're discussing it, you guys can immediately discuss right back with us. And we'll be able to see what your opinions are and what your thoughts are. That's why we love the chat. And then to make sure that your chat is seen, use that super chat so we can actually see it.
Yes.
Now,
Going back to the TARDIS, I like talking about kind of like old Doctor Who and like tropes and everything that they do in these episodes. I am surprised that none of the companions specifically mentioned that the TARDIS was bigger on the inside.
not one.
But also,
This episode.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of allude to it that she's like, it's like this kind of technology,
it's
and
a
that's why
police
like we're
box.
able to like fit everything into this police box. But the other thing that I really liked about this is that the Doctor, at the same time as the companions, is experiencing this new TARDIS for the first time. They're all in awe. They're all pretty much speechless, and they're overcome with that same emotion, which we
That's
don't get
true.
with the other Doctors, where
We
he was
haven't.
like, check out my wonderful TARDIS.
Yeah.
And she was just like, no, this
Yeah.
this is an amazing moment. And it was silent. Like, no one
It
was
was.
saying anything.
It was. That's very true. She didn't get to show off and be like, oh yeah, and wait for that moment. Like, Capaldi got to do it with his,
Yeah.
with Bill, and he waited for her to say it, and then she says, and then remember, Nardal's out. That is.
Yep.
Like, everyone gets to do it. This is the one time the Doctor didn't get to show off.
Yeah, and not being pretentious at all. And I wonder if that's written as part of her character. It has to be intentional, right?
Now, I was gonna say that. Now, does that mean is it that way? And we're gonna have to discuss it, because there are gonna be moments where people are gonna discuss it, and you're gonna be mad at us for doing it, but we have to ask those questions. Do you feel it's that way as part of her character because she's a woman, and it's like less ego, no need? Or is it just
I don't know
part
if it's
of
a
her
woman, but I
character
think
is
it's her
giving?
character of just not necessarily taking the spotlight. She's always praising, like, thank you so much, and like, I don't know. I think that's what is part of her charisma as this particular Doctor, is being this kind of accepting and generous, not only with saving people, but also with her words or lack thereof,
I like
and
it.
I don't know. What do you guys think? If you like her, if you don't like her, obviously we both love this Doctor and love this series. So
Yeah, so that's why it's always a good question. I'm seeing people are going over it right now. Yeah, the Doctor discovering the Tardis redecorated itself. That was a part for FOR Junior. That's what they loved, and I agree. That's what you said. You was like, oh man, that's
with
it.
bated breath, like we were there, like looking into the computer screen, like super intense, because I could not wait to see what this looked like.
It was great. It was great. And then like for every first episode of New Who,
it takes place on Earth. Thank you, Indo
That's
Bob.
right. It does. It takes place on Earth. But have you also noticed that the second episode always takes place off world? It's always that way. Like
No, Tennant's second regeneration still took place on Earth.
Well, yeah.
Still yeah.
Definitely. That's
the second.
Right.
Interesting.
Journey's End. That's right. Tennant's second regeneration, but it was his second, so.
That's true.
Yeah, we can't take credit for
that's
that.
what Doctor Who is. It kind of sets up these like tropes and these things, like these points that you kind of need to hit. But with every single thing, like it doesn't have to, and it pays homage to like obviously the past Doctors, and I don't know where this is gonna go though.
And that brings us right to it.
Because this Doctor and the writing is a little bit different. It's not exactly what we've seen before, which is really refreshing, but still not insulting to like any of the past, episodes and Doctors that have been on.
Since you said that you don't know where it's going, that's exactly where I want to go. I want to go to predictions. I want to go to ideas, things that you're like, okay, this is what I expect to see. And there's a particular reason why I didn't mention one part with the ribbons. Is because it's in my prediction.
Let's go with your prediction first, because you're obviously, you want to talk about this, and I want to hear about it.
Predictions. Notice there was a moment where the ribbons are flying around, and they start to look into the Doctor's, like, life. They look into the future and the past, and they said a phrase. They said what child? The timeless child. And the Doctor was like, well, what do you mean? What are you looking at? Stay out of my timeline. Like, essentially.
Or, like, stop reading my mind or something like that.
Yes. And it was like, wait, so something's happening here, and I need to know exactly what that is.
I totally forgot about that.
We are going to address that timeless child. I wonder if it's going to be a Shielder. Is she showing back up again?
That is, I love a Shielder.
Timeless child.
But also the Doctor too. Well, I guess not being a child, but she always.
No. The Doctor. But think about it. The Doctor was essentially a child when the Doctor ran away. Even though when the Doctor at that time ran away, he was an old man. That was his first generation.
That is true.
That was his first regeneration. And that, in a Time Lord's way, and when you are a Time Lord on Gallifrey, you're just a baby. You're a kid.
That's
so
true.
You were just
when you have all of time and space to explore, you are still relatively young.
So it was like you're just a little baby running away. Timeless child. And that's it. And now we get back to her, and she's very much kind of like she's childish in her way in some ways. When I say childish, I'm more cherubic, almost like Matt Smith.
I get that.
She's interested in so many things. Everything's so new.
Refreshing.
Wow,
yes.
So she could be the timeless child,
But Shielder is a good one too. That is super interesting.
So that's my prediction.
Man,
I
kind of wish I went first, because yours is a little more uplifting. My predictions is Graham is gonna die eventually.
Jeez.
And what we were talking about is Ryan. The point is Ryan needs to call him Grandpop or Grandpa, whatever. Acknowledge him as part of the family, because we see that Ryan still doesn't really acknowledge Graham as someone as part of the family. And I'm kind of curious also to find out what his relationship was with Grace's first husband, his grandfather, and why he's so resistant to Graham, who seems to be so good-natured and wants the best for him and does care about him quite a lot. So I want to see Ryan's story and Graham's story unfold and to find out what their history is.
I'm afraid of that. I don't want that.
I am,
because
but
we said it, and once we said it, we knew we were right. Which is the phrase of, well, you said it. It was, once we hear Ryan say, Granddad, it's going to be at the moment where Graham is dying. It's going to be one of those where Graham's like looking up at him, he's holding his hand.
Yeah. And Graham is going to sacrifice himself. And I feel like Grace, because he's going to fall in line with Grace and be like, I am going to step up. I am going to do this not just for Ryan, but for the good of the universe.
Exactly.
And it is going to be a heartbreak. And I'm already tearing up because I'm an emotional sap.
He's like,
but
don't, you can't leave now. I finally have a
watch
granddad. he
And watch,
dies.
none of this is going to happen. We're all going to be super let down. It's going to be like the most anticlimactic thing, and Graham and everyone's just going to
No,
live a
it
happy
may
life.
just be a sweet moment, and he
Yeah.
calls him granddad, and after that they continue on. And
I mean, that's fine too. If you guys have predictions, share it with us.
I'm good and happy with 3 companions. A lot of people aren't, and we're afraid about that. But now that I think we've covered everything, we know what at least our predictions and what we're looking forward to. We at least have ideas of where we want the show to go.
Yeah.
And we're glad that we got to hear some of your ideas as well. Continue to give us more ideas with
If you have
comments after
anything
the show.
after the show, go to Facebook, that THS hashtaggers, and chat with us. Or
Exactly.
check
And
out
do
our
that.
website.
Now, before that, of course, before we leave, we're not leaving without finding out exactly what you guys thought about the episode. So if you could, let us know out of how many sonic screwdrivers do you want to give it? Do you want to go like full 12? Or do you want to go 5? What do you want to do?
give it
I'm
like
thinking
all of time and space.
all in time
Yes.
and space?
Yes.
Oh my god, because we have so many. It's like how many sonic screwdrivers?
No, I don't want that
You know,
one.
guys, we'll say out of 12 sonic screwdrivers.
I give it 12.
How many are you gonna
mean
give?
13?
13? Well, the War Doctor.
Hey, we
And
gotta count the
she
War
referred
Doctor.
herself
That was
as-
a special episode.
Yeah, true.
War Doctor is important. He
so,
was
all right,
technically
fine.
12.
Out of 13 screwdrivers, out of 13 sonic screwdrivers, what are you guys giving it? Even though we didn't really have 13, we have 12. Because one of them reused, blah, blah. So, no.
Whatever. Same thing.
Who cares? Just let us know what you guys going up. We're going to go just out of 13.
All right.
Fine.
I got to give it 13 because I was so hyped for the introduction of this Tardis. We were obviously waiting for this first, the first episode, Doctor Companions got it, but we got the TARDIS. And now I feel like we are finally starting off Doctor Who. We have all the elements that we need to build a great story. So this one for me was a great episode. 13 out of
man.
13 screwdrivers.
Dang. Okay. All right. Now, for me, if I'm going to have to go ahead and judge it as well, you gave it a lot, and that's cool. That's great. I'm going to also give it 13 screwdrivers.
Wow.
And the reason I'm giving it 13 screwdrivers is because, once again, like you said, we got to build so much on the character of the Doctor as well as the companions, and this is only the second episode. If that's something we can do in only 2 hours, Lord knows what we'll be able to do for the rest of the season. And Chibnall seems to have a heart and a love for the show that he's not dropping.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue on. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
And
I'm
for
ready
Junior
for it.
gives it a 7 or an 8, and Bob, 13 Sonic Swiss Army knives.
That's right. She
that
does
is-
say. She does
That is
call it
great,
that.
and I feel like we can't get better than that comment on the show.
Well, Josh Gorman does ask, what would be in a sonic screwdriver drink? Now,
It's
people
vodka
ask
and
us
orange
all the
juice.
time. There you go.
Sonic.
Oh, and time
Vodka,
and space.
orange juice. No, vodka, orange juice, and Midori Sour doesn't go well with that, does it?
I could. Sweetness. It's fine.
There you go.
Everclear so you lose track of time.
Oh, man, Everclear.
That's a good one.
Don't drink that. Please don't,
drink
ever
that.
drink
Ever
that.
do that? Don't. That's horrible. But so we appreciate
guys
hearing
tuning
from
in?
you guys and letting us know exactly what you thought as well. Like I said, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date with everything trending
And geek pop culture.